Welcome to the first of many to come, Hello Greedo Patreon supporter Q&As. I'll be doing one of these videos once every other month, for those of you who help keep the lights on. If you want to support the channel and get in on the action, all you have to do is head over to patreon.com/HelloGreedo and throw $1 into the bucket. First up, WKC asks, will you keep your channel up to date? Absolutely. I try to keep up with all the Star Wars news and report on it when I can. There's a lot. But I try to pick and choose stories that interest me. Things that make me want to write about what's going on in Star Wars and fandom. I suppose that's an aspect of keeping things up to date. My interest really revolves around the films and the games. I love movies, and Star Wars just happens to be my favorite movie. I'm a gamer at heart as well, so all the new games we have to look forward to are super exciting to me. But when it comes to the comics, books, and TV shows, I understand why people like them. And hey, I enjoy them from time to time, but I don't have much of an interest in keeping up with the ever-growing catalog. My interest is really in the movies. That's where the meat and potatoes of my fandom can be found. I wish I had more of a desire to plunge into the depth of all the lore and entertainment outside of the films, but that's just not why I love Star Wars. So I guess in that sense, I can see why my channel might be somewhat of a disappointment to some viewers, because I am lacking in that realm. But if that's what some of you guys are looking for, there are some fantastic other Star Wars YouTube channels that tackle a much broader look at Star Wars. My main focus is on the movies and the games. With that being said, I never know when something will pique my interest. I'm not much of a planner. I could one day find my nose dug into a pile of comics and putting out a video discussing each one. I really don't know though. I hope that answered your question, WKC. I try my best to keep things up to date with bits that interest me the most. Mateusz asks, is your lack of confrontationness a choice in videos, or are you just an agreeable man in reality? What I mean is when you post a disclaimer that people are entitled to their own opinions and some such. I find it interesting that you just present your opinion and neither attack or defend them. This is my opinion, folks. I would say that attitude just, I guess, comes with time. I could give into the internet anger machine, firing back at negativity with my own negativity, but that's just not me. I recognize that everyone is different. People love Star Wars and anything really for reasons that may differ from mine. Am I agreeable in reality? I wouldn't call it agreeable. I just often see both sides of an argument. I find myself in the middle of most issues. That is, if the topic is based on opinion and not facts or statistics. I love statistics, facts, and evidence. I'm pretty analytical in that way. People are entitled to their own opinions, but they're not entitled to their own facts. If someone tells me that they don't like the new Battlefront game, hey, there's nothing I can do about that. And there's nothing that I should do about that. Different strokes. I will present my side of the argument, but I understand that in most cases, opinions will not shift. People like to dig their heels in, stand their ground. If someone thinks that something is immoral, my only argument really is live and let live. But if someone tells me that they think the world is flat, and I then show them thousands of photographs of Earth from space taken since 1946, pile on data, observation, evidence, and they tell me it's all a cover-up and a conspiracy, well, then I'm not dealing with a rational human being. In those cases of nonsensical claims, the ones that thrive by wearing blinders and ignoring evidence, well, that's where my agreeability shuts down and my brain just wants to detonate. So am I agreeable? Sure, I guess you could say that. When the foundation for an argument is built on personal opinion, I can usually at least understand where the other person is coming from. That might make me seem wishy-washy at times. Oh well, that's just how I operate. Mateusz Toth says, hi, I'm from Hungary, Budapest, and I'm a big fan of you. How does your wife cope with your huge enthusiasm for Star Wars? She must be a huge fan too. I wouldn't call her a huge Star Wars fan. She likes them. Her enthusiasm is nowhere near my level, but she appreciates and gets excited for the movies. We have different interests though, and I found that to be a huge positive, not a negative at all. I think having different interests really strengthens things. You need your own thing. You need to take some time to do things that you enjoy, a little time for yourself. She loves going to yoga. I've gone with her one time, but it wasn't really my thing. I get it, but it wasn't my thing. That's her thing. And my thing is Star Wars. And nah, she doesn't have to cope. She recognizes that too. I have my office full of Star Wars stuff, and we have a few little prints here and there around the house that reference Star Wars, but she's pretty lucky that I'm not much of a collector. It would probably turn into a problem if I was emptying our savings account to buy every Han Solo action figure ever made. But like I said, she gets my enthusiasm, and that's really all I can ask for. Cable Brandon asks, my question is, if Disney allowed you to alter one thing about the prequels, what would it be? Mine would be to have Darth Maul survive into episode 2 and 3 and get rid of Dooku. Hey there, Cable. As I was reading your question, I was also thinking about my answer, and it turns out your answer is also my answer. I would want Darth Maul to be the main adversary throughout the prequel trilogy. His mysterious nature and the lack of information about his character in The Phantom Menace would have made sense if he stuck around and we learned more about him in the following films. But from a storytelling aspect, Darth Maul leaves much to be desired. Sure, he looks cool, yeah, he looks really cool, but I'm looking for a little more depth in my Star Wars characters. I'm so glad Darth Vader didn't die in A New Hope. That allowed for us to learn more about his character in Empire and Jedi. They could have easily killed him during the Death Star battle. That could have easily been their decision, because they didn't know if they'd ever be able to make a sequel. Thankfully, they didn't kill him off, and we, as audience members, benefited in the long run, learning more about the masked villain. I wish Darth Maul stuck around to have an interesting character arc, and gave us a bad guy we looked forward to learning more about and seeing in action in future films. Next up, Jean-Pierre Genoui. He asks, my question relates to the Star Wars world and Disney. Do you think it will be any good or a letdown for hardcore Star Wars fans? I just want the rides to be awesome. Universal Park awesome. I agree. And/or to be fully transported to a galaxy far, far away by the decor. What do you know or think? Living in Florida, do you get more updates? I think the new Star Wars area of Disney World will be awesome. Disney acquired the franchise for a pretty penny, and they have a lot riding on the success of the franchise. So I have no doubt that they're gonna make the best Star Wars experience that can possibly be made. You mentioned rides, but you also mentioned something that might make me even more excited than rides: the decor. The rides will be great, I'm sure, but just to be able to walk around and see things from the Star Wars universe, even little things, might excite me even more. I don't think it'll be a letdown at all. If I had to guess, just like all their other projects as of late, the experience will be tailored for both the quotes hardcore fans, close quote, and the average fans of Star Wars. I'm very excited. And no, living in Florida hasn't offered me any sneak peek or exclusive news on what's to come. In fact, I haven't really been following the news about the park additions at all lately. There's probably a lot that's gone under my radar. Regardless, I'm super excited to head down there when it's all completed. I'm sure it's gonna be awesome. Charlie Shaw asks, I would like to know what your top science fiction movies are, excluding Star Wars, of course. What is it you like about them? Hey Charlie, great question. So I love science fiction movies, and I love movies based on science and true stories found within space exploration and history. Some of my favorite science fiction movies include Blade Runner, which is just a fantastic look at a future where we all must live side by side with our sentient creations. I love the noir feel to it. Drab and dark. The Turing test scenes, man, those are so clever, so well done, really fascinating. I also love Sunshine. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. The story of Sunshine is fun, one of self-sacrifice to save the greater good, but it's also one of the most beautiful science fiction movies I've ever seen. I love the style of it. Oh man, and the score is incredible. I love that movie so much. If you don't know anything about it, I wouldn't even suggest watching a trailer. Just buy the movie or rent it or stream it, and sit down to watch it without knowing anything about it. Sunshine. Check it out. I also actually have a very deep-seated childhood love for Independence Day, which means I'm super excited for the new one coming out soon. Of course, you have Alien and Aliens, Terminator. Serenity is awesome, as was the Firefly TV show. I'm also a big fan of The Next Generation. I like a ton of different science fiction movies, from 2001: A Space Odyssey to Moon, from E.T. to Contact to Close Encounters. It's definitely one of my favorite genres. But I also love films based on scientific endeavors rooted in history. Apollo 13 is a movie that I can watch over and over again. Literally, I've done that. I've just had it on all day and I never get sick of it. Same thing goes with The Right Stuff. I know I've mentioned The Right Stuff on this channel so many times. I'm sure a bunch of you guys are sick of hearing it by now, but The Right Stuff is incredible. It's not only an amazing movie, but it impacts me as a space buff really deeply. Check out The Right Stuff if you already haven't. Scott Kimball asks, in Star Wars, would you be a Jedi or a Sith? Also, what kind of color lightsaber would you wield? Ooh, that's tough. It shouldn't be, right? I mean, Jedi were the guardians of peace and justice in the old Republic before the Dark Times, before the Empire. Jedi should be my automatic answer, but I don't know, man. I think being on the dark side would be pretty tempting. Having that much power and not trying to bend the galaxy to your wishes? I don't know if I'd be strong enough to resist that pull. I wouldn't do anything super nefarious, of course. It's kind of like my answer to the if you could have any superpower, what would it be question. Mine is pretty dumb. I would want to freeze time. Why? So I could be the Jeopardy champion forever. Trebek would ask a question, I would pause time, pull out my phone, look up the answer, buzz in, unfreeze time, and boom, never miss a question. Pretty lame, right? I don't want to do anything mean-spirited or nasty. I just want to be the infinite and final champion of Jeopardy without actually having superior memorization skills. But to answer your question, I'd probably go with Jedi. I'd want to help out on the crusade for peace and justice. And I'd go with a blue lightsaber. Or maybe green. I can never decide between those two. Luke, aka Catalyst, asks, did you ever watch Deadpool and did you like it? And you recently went to St. Lucia, so what was your favorite vacation? I did see Deadpool. I liked it quite a bit. It was a nice breath of fresh air. Something smaller in scope from Marvel was nice for a change. My buddy put it perfectly. He said something like, if he would have seen Deadpool as a kid, it'd be his favorite movie ever. I get that. Bad words, over-the-top violence, and plenty of genital humor. It's a recipe to be an instant hit with that demographic. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I need to watch it again. And to answer your second question, my favorite vacation ever. I've had some fun ones, but my favorite one might be when my wife and I went to London last year for our anniversary. It was super fun to explore a city we'd never been to in a country we'd never been to. We discovered Scotch eggs, which is now like our favorite food. They're difficult to find around here, at least a good one. So we actually bought a fryer to make our own. Yeah, that was such a fun trip, man. We went for a week, took a tour to a few places like Stonehenge and Windsor Castle, but our favorite part was just kind of wandering around aimlessly, hopping in and out of pubs, filling our faces with food, and having no plans. Robert asks, what is your favorite microbrewery in North Florida? Any plans to make your home brew available? Or at least the stickers for the bottle? There are a bunch of breweries around me. There's Bold City, Intuition, Ardwolf, Green Room, Ancient City, Pinglehead, Engine 15, Veterans United, and Zeta. They're all fantastic, different atmospheres for whatever you're in the mood for, but they all have some really good beer. If I had to pick one though, just one, I'd say Ardwolf. Their beer is just so outstanding, and they make a bunch of unique stuff. If you're ever in Jacksonville, definitely check out Ardwolf. And as far as my home brew, I haven't brewed a batch in a long time, like over 2 years, maybe closer to 3 years. It turned out alright for a first attempt. I definitely wouldn't sell it. I don't want to have to figure out all the legal mumbo jumbo that would go along with distribution, and I wouldn't sell it because it wasn't actually that good. I love the label I made for it though. It's called Aunt Brew Burnt Brown. It was, or at least an attempt, to make a brown ale. I'm not sure where I could distribute the stickers. I was using a vendor, but I stopped using them, but I found a new one, but the new one doesn't produce stickers, just t-shirts. So maybe I'll turn the beer label into a shirt. I don't know. I'll let you know if I do. Jocelyn Troy, aka Joss64, asks, what do you think is the most ambitious Star Wars game in production or soon to be? What are you personally looking forward to? The most ambitious? Well, I think the most difficult game in production to please everyone will be the sequel to Battlefront, because there's a lot of disappointed gamers who are looking for a different experience than what they got with the first game. So that's probably the most ambitious. But then you have the X-Wing VR mission that's coming out later this year exclusively on the PlayStation. That's new territory, which makes me extremely excited to see what they come up with. That in and itself is very ambitious. Then again, I don't have a PlayStation or a VR headset. I might have to cleverly convince a friend of mine who does have a PlayStation to invest in a headset and then invite myself over. But I think the game that I'm most looking forward to is the unnamed game that we saw in EA's latest Star Wars video, right before E3. The one that just briefly shows a character walking out with Star Destroyers overhead. The mystery fuels my excitement for that one. Just not knowing what exactly it is really makes me look forward to finding out more. So out of all of the gaming content that's on the horizon, I'd have to say I'm most excited for that one. The Movie Critic Dude asks, would you like to see a Star Wars trilogy based on the Old Republic? If so, name 5 things for it to be good upon. I have to admit, I don't really know too much about the Old Republic lore. But if we're talking about a new trilogy based on events of the distant past, I think I would prefer seeing one that focuses on the creation and formation of the Jedi. I think that would be fascinating. How they came up, how they came to be. A trilogy that just jettisons the franchise thousands of years in the past, even before the Old Republic, and shows a more primitive spacefaring galaxy. One that isn't as technologically sound. One in which chaos is running rampant. Enemies are not easily defined. One that shows the first people to tap into the Force, which leads these newly enlightened people to create the Jedi Order. Is something like that already told in a comic or a book? I don't know. If there is, let me know. I'm just rambling here. But I think a trilogy like that would be a fascinating new look at the franchise, told in a different time, different struggles, you know? I don't know. I would totally be up for a trilogy based on the Old Republic though, but I can't really pinpoint 5 things I would want in that trilogy. As long as it was fun, I'd be up for whatever, man. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you want to support the channel, just head to patreon.com/HelloGreedo, throw in a buck, and I'll be sure to answer your question on the next supporter Q&A. Hello Greedo, out.
Always with you, cannot be done.